Some wounds are so profound that healing feels like betrayal. When the pain becomes the last thread connecting us to something meaningful, an identity, a memory, a lost love, we cling to it, because letting go would mean becoming nothing. And sometimes, becoming nothing is more terrifying than suffering. Carl Gustav Jung understood this intimately. He didn't theorize from afar. He descended into the abyss himself. In the winter of his own life, Jung stood face to face with madness, not metaphorical, but raw, trembling, chaotic. He saw visions. He spoke to phantoms. He heard voices that were not his own. This wasn't poetic license. It was a rupture of the psyche. But instead of fleeing or numbing himself with distraction, Jung chose something else. He made the most dangerous decision a man can make in times of inner torment. He went deeper. Most people, when caught in deep suffering, seek anesthesia. They run to entertainment, to ideology, to relationships that offer quick salvation. Jung walked in the opposite direction. He entered what he called the unconscious, not as a tourist, but as a pilgrim. His strategy was not about escape. It was about integration, and that is what made it powerful. Here's the paradox. The more you try to escape suffering, the more it mutates. It hides. It embeds itself in symbols, habits, thoughts. It infects relationships. It corrupts joy. But Jung realized something ancient, something mystical. What you resist persists, and what you embrace transforms. So he embraced the darkness. Jung developed a technique he called active imagination. It sounds harmless, almost childish, but it is the opposite. Active imagination is the conscious dialogue with the unconscious. It's the invitation of inner demons into the light of day. He would sit, close his eyes, and let the unconscious speak, not passively, but intentionally, asking questions, listening, recording, interpreting. He treated his inner world like a sacred text. This was not therapy. This was alchemy. And this is the first key to Jung's strategy. Stop running from the symbols in your suffering. Instead, begin to speak with them. Jung believed that every nightmare, every emotional collapse, every repeating anxiety carried a message from the self, a deeper, wiser part of the psyche that longs for integration. Jung didn't try to cure his pain. He tried to learn its language. Imagine that. Instead of suppressing the chaos, you ask it what it wants from you. You become a translator of your own agony. This is not comfortable. It is not quick, but it is the only path to genuine transformation. Because transformation does not come through avoidance. It comes through dialogue with the abyss. This idea goes against everything modern culture teaches us. We are told to optimize, to regulate, to move on, to distract ourselves, to perform wellness. But Jung invites something far more dangerous. To sit with the monster until it gives you its name. And when it does, something extraordinary happens. It begins to shrink. This is why Jung often invoked the symbol of the shadow. The shadow is not just your darkness. It's everything you refuse to see about yourself. All the forgotten truths, all the buried rage, all the repressed power. Suffering intensifies when we exile these parts of ourselves. The longer they remain unacknowledged, the more violently they seek expression. Here lies the second key. Wholeness, not perfection, is the goal. Jung was not obsessed with becoming morally pure. He was obsessed with becoming integrated. That meant making peace with contradiction, with failure, with sin. He once said, "I'd rather be whole than good." This is radical. It means your suffering isn't asking you to be better. It's asking you to be more real, more complete, less divided. Let that sink in. The parts of you that hurt the most are not weaknesses to eliminate. They are lost parts trying to come home. So what does that mean for you? It means that your suffering isn't meaningless. It is a signal, a summons, a chance to descend into the symbolic world of your own psyche and retrieve what you've abandoned. Jung believed that this journey, what he called individuation, was the only path to true sanity. And that path is dangerous. It threatens the false self. It threatens your public image. It might even threaten your career, your relationships, your carefully curated peace, but it will save your soul. If this vision of Jung's resonates with something deep in you, if you've ever felt that your suffering is trying to tell you something, then consider subscribing to this channel. Here, we don't offer shortcuts or platitudes. We dive into the depths, psychology, philosophy, and myth, to give you tools for inner transformation. If that's your path, join us. There's a reason why most people never take the path Jung walked. It's not because they lack intelligence or education or even courage. It's because they are surrounded by voices, internal and external, telling them that suffering must be eliminated, not listened to. We are a culture obsessed with anesthesia. Numbness is our highest virtue. But what if pain is not the enemy? What if it is the compass? Jung's strategy becomes clearer when we realize that he was not simply escaping suffering. He was reorienting his relationship to it. He saw suffering as a sacred signal, a gateway to inner metamorphosis. This idea is echoed across spiritual traditions. In Christianity, the Desert Fathers entered isolation to confront their demons. In Zen, koans are designed to break the logical mind and awaken a deeper perception. In shamanic rituals, initiates descend into madness to find their spirit. Jung, in his own way, revived this ancient archetype, the wounded healer. But here's where it gets more intense. The process is not linear. Jung's descent lasted years. During that time, he wrote, painted, dreamed, argued with his own mind. He compiled these experiences in what would later become the Red Book, a text so personal, so mystical, that he kept it hidden for decades. In it, Jung documented conversations with archetypes: the wise old man, the dark feminine, the trickster. These were not imaginary friends. They were psychic forces, parts of himself with their own logic, their own morality, their own stories. Engaging them was not self-indulgence. It was survival. This is the third key to Jung's strategy. Personify the forces within you. Suffering often feels overwhelming because it is faceless. It appears as a fog, a weight, a generalized despair. Jung teaches us to give it shape, to paint it, to speak to it, to ask, who are you? What do you want from me? Once the pain is personified, it becomes a dialogue partner, not a dictator. You are no longer being drowned. You are being initiated. This approach sounds poetic, but it is also neurological. The brain responds differently when emotions are externalized and symbolized. By giving form to the chaos, we reduce its power. More importantly, we begin to see the pattern behind the pain. And often that pattern reveals this: you are not suffering because you are broken. You are suffering because something essential has been neglected. Maybe it's your creativity, your anger, your sensuality, your hunger for freedom. Maybe it's your grief, your story, your connection to the sacred. Jung believed that the unconscious contains not just darkness, but potential. What he called the self is not the ego. It's the totality of who you could become if you had the courage to face yourself. This leads us to the fourth key. Your suffering is the raw material of your transformation. Alchemy was one of Jung's great obsessions, not because he believed in turning lead into gold, but because he saw in alchemy a metaphor for psychological growth. The alchemist's furnace is suffering. The lead is your unprocessed pain. The gold is wholeness. Every stage of the alchemical process mirrored a psychological one. Dissolution, confrontation, purification, integration. You do not become wise by avoiding darkness. You become wise by surviving it and by extracting its essence. So how do you apply this? Start by stopping the war within. Stop demonizing your anxiety. Stop repressing your sadness. Stop pathologizing your emptiness. Instead, ask, what are these emotions trying to tell me? Then, listen, not casually. Ritualize it. Journal, meditate, paint, speak aloud. Give voice to what's been buried. This isn't about technique. It's about intention. The unconscious will not speak to those who do not take it seriously. You must show reverence. That's the word Jung would use. Reverence. For the inner world, for the shadow, for the mystery that lives beneath your rational mind. Our culture worships intellect and speed. Jung offers an antidote: slowness, depth, presence. He once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And who you truly are cannot be discovered by running from suffering. It can only be revealed by descending into it and coming back with something sacred. Here we begin to understand the gravity of Jung's contribution. He didn't offer a quick fix. He offered a path, and paths are not formulas. They require discernment, commitment, sacrifice, but most of all, they require faith, not in a dogma, but in the process of becoming. You might not believe in myths or archetypes or alchemy. That's fine. Jung's work doesn't demand belief. It demands honesty. Are you willing to confront the parts of you that terrify you? Are you willing to stop pretending you're okay and begin the real work of becoming whole? If the answer is yes, even if it's whispered, then you're already on the path. There's something we haven't said yet. Something difficult but necessary. Healing through Jung's path requires the willingness to lose everything that is false. We often say we want to heal, but what we really mean is, I want to feel better without changing anything. We want the pain to go, but we want to keep the life that created it. The toxic relationships, the inauthentic career, the shallow friendships, the fear-based decisions. Jung knew this was impossible. Real healing is violent to the ego. It's disruptive. It takes from you everything that is no longer aligned with your truth, and it does not ask for permission. That's why Jung emphasized the symbolic death. In myths, the hero must descend into the underworld. He must face the dragon. He must die to who he was. Only then can he be reborn. Jung didn't see this as literary flair. He saw it as psychological necessity. And this brings us to the fifth and most terrifying key. Let your old self die. Not metaphorically, but truly. Let the masks fall. Let the roles dissolve. Let the false peace shatter. Because only in that sacred ruin can something real emerge. This death is not glamorous. It can look like depression, like disorientation, like letting go of people who don't understand you anymore. It can feel like loneliness, but that loneliness is sacred. It is the space where your soul recalibrates. Jung once wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." The path of individuation, the process of becoming whole, often creates distance, not because you're superior, but because you're shedding illusions. And yet, paradoxically, it is through this solitude that deeper connections become possible. When you've faced your shadow, when you've walked through the underworld of your own psyche, you become capable of seeing others clearly. You no longer need to fix them, save them, or please them. You see them in their pain, and you can hold space without judgment. That is the mark of someone who has suffered well. Not just suffered, but suffered well. You begin to live not from compensation, but from presence. Not from image, but from essence. You speak not to be liked, but to be true. This is not arrogance, it is clarity. And it is the fruit of Jung's strategy. Not escape from suffering, but a radical encounter with it. There's a strange phenomenon that happens when you walk this path. The things that once terrified you become teachers. The voices that once mocked you become allies. The wounds that once defined you become portals. You no longer ask, how can I avoid pain? You ask, what is this pain inviting me to become? This doesn't mean you enjoy suffering. It means you stop being enslaved by it. You reclaim authorship of your life. You stop outsourcing your sanity to circumstances. You become sovereign. And in that sovereignty, something else awakens. Creativity. Jung believed that suffering, when integrated, becomes the fuel for creativity. The artist, the philosopher, the visionary, they all draw from the same well. It is not joy that births the deepest truths. It is anguish transformed. So if you're in pain now, real pain, know this. You are closer to transformation than you think. You are standing at the threshold. The choice is not between suffering and peace. The choice is between unconscious suffering and conscious suffering. One enslaves, the other initiates. Choose initiation. And if you've made it this far, if this resonates with your deepest inner sense, consider becoming part of this journey with us. Subscribe, stay close, and let's walk this path of wholeness together. Because the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more whole people. People who've suffered, integrated, and emerged with eyes that see. Eyes like Jung's.